Good day everyone, Complaining Gamer here. Welcome back to the channel. If you're brand new, hopefully you enjoyed the content enough to take a second look. Continuing the expansion of emulators I cover, today we're going to explore RPCS3, a PlayStation 3 emulator and one which is already quite far along in development. It already boasts improved resolutions and stable frame rates in comparison to actual PS3 hardware, but, and this is a big but, at a certain cost. Let me preface this by saying I love the work they do and commend their dedication. However, my content is founded on honesty and facts, and there is one fact which is glaringly obvious. RPCS3 is an absolute CPU destroyer. For those of you who are newer to emulation, the sheer complexity and skill behind developing an emulator is truly staggering, and any attempt to develop one deserves appreciation. The flip side to that is emulating a console's GPU and CPU comes at a cost. That cost is the hardware capabilities of your system. The PS3 is a notoriously complex system with 8 cores, and whilst not every emulator demands like-for-like specifications when being emulated on a PC, RPCS3 is unbelievably demanding to run. The concern I have is that whilst you and I are here due to a love of all things emulation, I feel that RPCS3, at least in its current state, is shutting the doors to many potential users due to hardware demands. Let me clarify, my personal system is no world beater. However, every piece of content on this channel has been created on a single system with the same CPU. With my specs on screen, let's focus on my CPU. The reason being that emulators are driven mostly by the CPU, whereas the GPU will play a role in resolution. My Q3 2015 i5 6400 has a base clock of 2.7 GHz and a boost of 3.3 with 4 cores and 4 threads. You may say that by today's standards this is quite low, and I am inclined to agree. However, up to this point the 6400 has never been much of a roadblock in terms of presenting an emulator. Countless times users have commented in shock about the performance I've gotten out of my CPU when they're sitting there with a 7700K at a lower FPS. Now, naturally that's illogical and most likely down to human error. However, it has come up numerous times. This brings me to a second point. Minimum system requirements and the lack of details out there about them. The majority of currently popular emulators rarely state specific CPU requirements, ultimately leaving the end user somewhat uneducated about what they might expect from their own system. Admittedly, given the sheer combination possibilities of hardware, it's hard to determine exactly what is required, but the player is left with absolutely nothing to go on, not even a ballpark figure. The problem this causes is unrealistic expectations. Take for example the new RPCS3 video, which actually caused me to pick up Sonic Unleashed and try it for myself. It shows high resolution visuals with a nearly locked FPS, pushing beyond actual console hardware as indicated by the video title. The one thing which is missing, however, is any sign of the system specifications used to reach that kind of performance. In my personal tests, the i5 6400 was slammed to a near constant 100% on all cores, which was able to provide between 10 to 20 FPS. GPU and memory weren't bottlenecking at all. The issue is my CPU. What this means is, theoretically, I could increase game resolution and expect similar FPS. Now, I support any group's right to present their work in its best possible light, but it should also be a prerequisite to include the system it ran on to get there. Otherwise, the audience will just be left to marvel at a video displaying something they'll never actually be able to achieve, at least not without upgrading their hardware. Naturally, any team working on an emulator is owed time and patience. It's a gradual process, not a race. I sincerely hope that RPCS3 will, over time, optimize performance to better suit moderate systems. In regard to Sonic Unleashed, I have it on good authority that the presentation was done on an 8700K clocked at 5.2 GHz, a current top-end consumer CPU which has been overclocked. This means that the end user can achieve similar results if they have a similar CPU. It could be the case that Sonic currently doesn't run well in general, but one thing seems clear to me, at least today. If I personally wish to use RPCS3, using the processor which has taken me all this way simply isn't an option. No degree of tweaks will provide the raw brute force required, and it's not limited just to Sonic. Ultimately, I wish success for all the teams out there, but we also need more transparency with information. And that also goes for us content creators too. Just so you know, you'll always find my system specs listed in the description. Let me know, do you agree, disagree, perhaps you have a different perspective? Leave your ideas, thoughts and comments down below. I'd love to know your personal experience with RPCS3. If you want to follow all things Complaining Gamer, social media links are provided. If you enjoyed the content, leave a like. If you didn't, dislike, and to keep up to date with all things emulation, subscribe and hit that bell icon. I'll catch you in the next one.